waiting to see if YouTube. What up, YouTube? All right, I think I'm popping. I'm seeing something there. Yep, there I go. All right, everybody. Well, I have a really cool guest today. This rapper named Truthseekah. So when I was first waking up, I was listening to a lot of his music, and he helped inspire me to evolve and like how we all evolve nowadays. And I'm just really humble and thankful for him to join my podcast today. So with no further ado, I'm gonna bring on the rapper Sika. So what's up,
Hey,
Truthseekah?
hey, man, how you doing?
I'm doing good, bro. Thank you so much for joining the Faith and Babes podcast. I'll tell you a little bit about me. So I started a clothing line, Faith and Base, and that's the name of my podcast. And basically, I started waking up. Right, I woke up a lot more within, go figure, around 2020. Right, and a lot of things happened in my life. Got laid off from my job, and I was just searching, and obviously things that were happening in the world didn't make a ton of sense. And I started realizing, man, people need God, and I started realizing that even though I grew up Christian, I grew up Catholic, right? But I went away from my faith, like a lot of people have, because you learn religion and not necessarily a relationship with God, right? So and I started realizing, right, the powers that be, they're basically taking God away from people. So so yeah, so then I mean I started listening to your music, and the things that you were rapping about. I was like, man, like it edifies your soul, right? Because at the end of the day, um, when you start waking up, you can't listen to the stuff anymore that used to bump, right? Like, I'm born and raised in Miami, right? You listen to Trick Daddy, you listen to all this kind of like type of music, but they're talking about girls shaking ass, all this kind of stuff, and it's like, it's fun a little bit, but you want something to edify your soul and to inspire you. So yeah, I mean, with no further ado, feel free to give yourself a little intro to some of the people that are listening.
Yeah, man. Again, thank you for having me, bro. And I appreciate what you got going on and inspiring people because we need some inspiration. And when it's coming from faith, you know what I'm saying? It's definitely what we need displayed. So, yeah, I go by Truth Seeker. I do spiritual and esoteric hip hop, is what I call it. Um, I just talk about my faith, my experiences, my beliefs, and try to share them poetically in song format, and to inspire people to create as well, and um, just being a light out there, man. I have a podcast. I've been podcasting off and on since like 2010, when we called them radio shows, and but they wasn't on the radio show. So yeah, I've been doing it for a long time, and just really finding a lot of different mediums to express faith, art, life, struggle, and trying to find ways to connect with people and to encourage people. And there's a lot of them. I put out a book, a podcast, I do uh, videos, and so much. We have a Patreon where we like started out just for people like wanting to support the music, and because they get unreleased music like as I'm working on it, and then I took it to the next level, and I was like, well, let me give y'all something extra for supporting because it really means a lot. I was like, well, let's do a Thursday night hangout, and so like every Thursday night I meet with the listeners and the fans and friends and stuff, and we'd do a Zoom call, and all these people are joining, and so that kind of turned into like, hey man, we pray together, we study together, we open it up for dialogue, and then open it up on Sunday morning. So now we kind of like got like an online fellowship, online church kind of thing, because a lot of people, like you said, they learn religion, they didn't learn relationship, and I think that what we're doing even with this is doing life together, which is relational. So that's what I bring to the table, man, and still doing the same thing I've been doing.
Yeah, man. I think it's really cool to evolve with the times. I think that now it's like what better way to get the message out there than by using your voice and using it for podcasting and like you said the Patreon and stuff like that. So I mean, even for me, I mean, since you're a music artist, right? So for you being able to express yourself in this way, I feel like comes second nature. For me, I'm more of like the graphic designer, the guy behind this stuff. So this is kind of like a new thing for me to share my voice, but I really I recognize the impact that you could have touching so many people by putting yourself out there in this streaming podcasting world, right? So
Yeah.
so as far as like your music career, like have you always been musical, or was just like rapping your thing, or like like talk to me a little bit about like your journey, like coming up into the music industry.
Yeah, man. I mean, I've always been, really into music. It's been my escape. It's been my solace. I came up listening to a lot of rap and metal as a kid, new metal, corn, stuff like that. But hardcore gangster rap too. Master P. I'm from New Orleans, and there's a big impact on my life. And identity and stuff, and watching gangster movies from the hood and stuff like that. So. Um, that has an impact on music. So I didn't start rapping until I became a Christian. So I really didn't do anything before that. But it was in, I want to say, 2003 that I started well, I became a member of a rap group, a gospel rap group. And it's a group called All for God, A4G, All for God Ministry.
Oh,
And
snap.
they all had like these cool names and stuff. Third Prophet, Rob Messenger, Miss Meek, like Goodwill, like they all had these cool names, and I was just, and that's Derek, the white guy, you know. And so I was like, he's like, man, you need to come up with a name. So that's really when I, chose a rap name, Truthseekah. I had two different names that I was rolling with, and I told that one of them like wasn't spiritual at all, the name, and I told the leader, I was like, this is what I'm working with. He's like, yeah, just go with Truthseekah, man. The other one, when you laugh, was D-Lo.
D-Lo.
D-Lo. I don't know. I had to pick a name, and so I'm glad I'm glad he coached me to say, yeah, take Truth Seeker. But it was an ER at the time, so we started out going to a lot of churches. Man, it was a lot. It was like um, I started out ad libbing them, like just being on stage, and I could recite their lyrics and back them up as kind of like a hype man, and then started writing my own verses and stuff like that. So, I mean, they would do sometimes like 4 events a week, going to different churches in the neighborhood. And I've been to so many. I didn't know that was that many churches locally, but there's churches here in the Bible Belt everywhere. So that was fun. I was able to, get comfortable on stage and get comfortable in awkward environments, at times. And so that's why I started, doing music. And around that time, I honestly don't know what came first with the rapping part, because we were doing Christian rock music as well, and I probably did the rock band stuff first before the rapping thing. I really don't know the timeline. I have to go back and pinpoint it, but I did Christian metal too. So I was in a couple different bands. One of them early on was called 6 Hours Frail, and I did rap metal, Christian rap metal, and did that and played in a lot of Christian metal bands, screamo, and played bass. Always was drawn to vocals, and started putting out music, and then it's hard to keep a band together, and so it's easy to do things by yourself. So that's why in the end the solo stuff ends up winning, because it's on you when you want to practice, when you want to record, kind of thing. I always wanted a group around me, so I've always like coached people and had my friends rapping and doing the graphic art and album covers and videos for all the local gospel rappers too over the years. And so I've been doing it for a long time. Put out my music, Christian rap. 2006, released the album called Fight Music. It was my first little independent project that I put out, and started getting radio play here locally and stuff, and that was like huge. Getting in the car after a long day's work, and then you're riding home and they're playing your song on the radio. You know, that was a really cool experience. But um, I guess over the years of my faith and my spirituality and my study just began to get a lot deeper as a psalmist and a poet. Like, you write about what you're going through. You know, if I'm studying it, if I'm big into spiritual warfare, like, it's coming out in the lyrics. If I'm studying something specifically, it's coming out. So there was a point in time where I got into conspiracy stuff, and back in like 2008 or so, and I started putting that in my music. 9/11, and I did an album called The Fall of Babylon, you know, and all kinds of this deep conspiracy stuff that I was studying, and the Freemasons and all this before it became popular. You know what I'm saying? Like, now everybody's an expert in this, but um, came with its own, you know, backlash and stuff like that. But eventually, you know, coming around to where my spirituality is, just putting that in my music too. So stargazing, finding, you know, the names of stars in the Bible and constellations. And as I'm studying this stuff, I'm just, it's coming out of me artistically, and opened up my vocabulary, you know, in a major way. Instead of just saying angels, the angels are speaking to me. Now I can say what kind of angels, and now I can, what type of angels, or the name of the angels, you know. And so with words, you know, especially Christian rap, like, you're kind of like, there's only so many songs about Jesus you can do, you know. Well, we just found a new way to do it, and I did, and I am. So um, that's been the journey of music, man, getting into it and kind of where I am now.
Yeah, that's cool. It's funny. I haven't really thought about Christian like metal like that. Like, in a worldly sense, you would think that that's like an oxymoron, but that's pretty fresh how you were able to kind of mash up those two worlds. I almost gotta listen to some of your old tracks and kind of check that out and see what's up. Cause it's funny, like the old school mentality would be like, yo, like somebody that's a hardcore Christian would be like, oh, heavy metal's devil worship, or something along those lines, right? So I'm sure you had to deal with that going into churches or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
you
A lot
know.
of awkward moments, and like doing the metal, the heavy stuff, and screaming kind of stuff. We hit they say, "Hey, let my friend's band come play. They're a Christian band." Okay, and we get in there, hit the first note, go gong, and like, man runs in there, grabs his kids, like, "Let's go, we gotta leave." And it, like, people stop coming to church and stuff. I can't believe y'all let
Dang.
those kids play, you know. So yeah, it definitely comes with its own, you know, share of trials. But even the Christian rap too. I mean, it was the same thing. You know, there's no such thing, oxymoron. That's what they believe in, you know. But it is, you know, music's music. Everybody has a double standard, and I love doubling down on people's double standards, especially when they use it to hurt and attack people, you know, religious people. The same things that we're accusing other people of, they're doing too, accusing us of, like, you know, doing, you know, secular music or trying to be worldly and copying the world is what they'd say, but then they'd lead worship and their stuff sounds like barroom rhythm and blues music kind of stuff. And it's like, you guys don't, the same way you're judging us is you're doing the same thing, but there's something that doesn't connect in their understanding. So I like to double down and just make people think, you know, make
Yeah.
them think that, you know, the same way you're judging people, you got to judge yourself because you're doing the same thing.
He who cast the first stone, right?
For
So
sure.
I mean, it's funny. You're basically demonstrating Jesus's preachings or teachings to them, right? And yeah, no, that's funny. I like kind of, I don't want to come across like an ego thing, but I like trying to, move with that spirit sometimes too, where you kind of let people know, yo, like, you got a double standard in the way you're moving, right? So I can empathize with that because I kind of have that kind of, that spunk in me too, like that. But
Well, I play the devil's advocate a lot, even on the podcast, and it's even, you know, catch flack for even saying that term, the devil's advocate. Play
right.
Jesus. It's like, no, it's actually, it's a title of something, and there was something. I come to find out, I didn't know this until a couple years ago. There was a role in the early church of someone who plays the devil's advocate, who just stands between and just asks questions like, and they don't have any vested in it, but they're doing it to engage a conversation, which is what you'll learn to do in podcasts. Ask questions that maybe you don't care to know, but you know your listeners do, or you ask it in the sense as you don't know, just to see what they'll say, kind of thing, and playing the devil's advocate there. But you know, and that's what it is too about showing those. Hey, you just said this, but you know you're doing that kind of thing. I think that is a huge part of my personality too.
Yeah, I mean, it's your name too, right? Truthseekah, right? They say there's power in words and there's power in names too, and it's like you named yourself that, and now actually you're searching for the truth, right? And if Jesus is the pinnacle of the truth, right? And if he got crucified, right? What does that say about people like you, people like me that are out there really searching for the truth, right? Or it's not necessarily the easiest road to take, right?
Yeah. We encourage men to seek after the truth, but we crucify them when they claim that they found it.
Hmm. Yeah, and I must say that I'm sure it's been interesting. Like since you've been making music for so long, like man, my worldview has changed within the last month, within the last 6 months, within the last year. So
Yeah.
I'm sure for you it's probably the same, right? Like maybe you might have a song that people like, and that was maybe 6 years ago or something, and you're like, yo, like I don't even necessarily believe that stuff anymore, or I've evolved since, or have a different worldview now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, you know, like I said, like whatever I'm studying, whatever I'm going through, it comes out. So, in that, you know, there's songs that remind me of where I was, you know, so I don't listen to them, you know what I'm saying? I was combative, you know, religiously, um, and I calling names and you know, attacking other people, Christians that believe things that I didn't believe and stuff. And a lot of it's in my old music. And so I'm glad that I wasn't as, you know, known or whatever as I am now, so that, you know, it couldn't have done the damage, if you will. But it's still out there, and it serves as a reminder. And I appreciate, you know, I can look back at even my catalog as a journey, you know, of what I was into and stuff. And so, but since, you know, I would say my awakening, just, you know, when I leaned trying to study religion have in common versus what we have, our differences are, because that's what the church taught me. And I, my music from that point on, and that was, I put and promote it like it's brand new. Like I still feel the energy, the childlike wonder of growth and of, you know, pulling from all these sources of inspiration and putting it into a song, from a movie quote to a new word that I just found, you know, in the Bible or in another book or something, and finding ways to rhyme it, you know, and all of that's sealed, and people are experiencing, you know, in real time, you know, and it's been the soundtrack of their spiritual awakening. It's been amazing to be able to facilitate that for people.
Yeah, I think we get judged by I mean, and I'm not God here, but this is just I'm trying to be a conduit for God. I think we get judged by how well we use our gifts, right? Like at the end of the day, God's gonna because I've seen a ton of NDEs, and I'm sure you have too, and a lot of the times they have a life review, right? And I feel like that's going to be kind of part of your life review, like hey, like God might be talking to you, Truth Seeker, or to me, Mike. Hey, Mike, I blessed you with crazy artistic skills, but you basically didn't do shit. What is that about? Or vice versa. Hey, Truth Seeker, you have a great perspective, you have a great voice, you have great this and that. Did you use your talents, or did you like squander them? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, so I try to make sure that I'm doing my end of the bargain, especially more that I'm awakened now. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
yeah,
I live life that way, man. I try my best to live every day like it's my last, and I try to stay in that review. You know, it's overly introspective, and but you want to be able to learn, because we're being taught, man, like we're in school. you know, and so that the whole thing about Christ, like his deal is the Holy Spirit is to bring the judgment of God to you while you're alive, so that when you die, you're not destroyed. Like you can purify yourself with the Holy Spirit, which is a consuming fire. God is an all-consuming fire. So this beauty of being able to ready oneself so that you don't reach the end of the life, your end of your life, like, man, I wish I could have took that trip. Man, I wish I could have at least tried to be a full-time artist or whatever your calling is, you know. And you don't want to have any regrets. And so the way you treat people and your family and how you respond to haters on the internet, like we're learning from all this stuff. So I try to live in that place, very introspective, and um, I feel like it helps me, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And I noticed you said something earlier about that you started making music when you were a Christian. So you weren't necessarily raised up as a Christian.
No, I mean, in the South, everybody's a Christian, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody, goes to church and stuff, but religion and stuff, but not having that like encounter, that personal relationship, and knowing that God was real, and reading the scriptures and just fellowshipping with Jesus, like that. That was a monumental moment in my life when I had that experience and surrendered my life to Him, and it was a supernatural experience, and it changed everything. So, we went to church and all that stuff, but it just wasn't. It was religion. You didn't want to be there. You didn't understand anything, you know, until we live life
switch views here. After at the end of the video, I did the sinner's prayer, and I was alone in my apartment, and I did it out loud with my eyes closed in the kitchen. Okay, and I kid you not, as I said it, I in my eyes I saw, and I'm completely sober, so I'm not like tripping on shrooms or anything like that. I saw like a vision of the cross, like white with like blue, like bluish white, come right in front of me, and I actually got scared, so I actually opened up my eyes because I was like, what, and then it was crazy because I closed my eyes again because I wanted to see it and it wasn't there anymore, and it was just wild. It was one of those things where it's like, man, when God gives you little nudges and little miracles like that, it's just for you. It's not for everybody else. I mean, obviously, I'm talking about it here, but I felt compelled to share it with you because you actually said the same thing about the sinner's prayer. And listen, I'm not saying, oh, that's the correct doctrine or whatever. Listen, I'm not trying to claim anything like that. All I know is from my experience is that you know and it reminds me of one of my favorite Bible quotes, James 4:8. Come near to God and God will come near to you, right? and
I sign all of my merch in books and stuff with James.
and he gave me the pound. He dapped me up. So but no, I felt like it's wild that you mentioned that, because yeah, I had a similar experience. But I mean, it's pretty wise. I mean, listen, that was only a couple of years ago for me, bro, and I'm 37. So I mean, I guess that's wise of you. You did that when you were 13. So kudos to you for
God,
not sleepwalking for as long as I was, bro.
yeah, man. It's, I got started young. I had a call in my life early, and we all do. Just know that, you know what I'm saying. But how soon do you know it? How soon do you get to where you need a lifeline? You know what I'm saying? And I got there pretty early, you know.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. That's good. Um, Here, I'm gonna check out some of my other questions that I have here. So listen, I've seen your podcast with Jordan Maxwell, and I hadn't seen these ones yet, but I've seen that you've interviewed some of these guys like Busy Bone and Head from Corn. And actually, I seen his documentary, his Christian documentary. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Oh yeah.
Um, I know that you've had a pod with Daniel Adams, who I've seen quite a bit of his content. So basically, with all these discussions, and maybe some of these guys that I probably never even know who they are, what would you say is like some insight or something uplifting that's maybe like made a mark in your life, from all the different kind of conversations that you've had throughout your Truthseekah
Yeah.
podcast?
Um, to know that God is in each and every one of those people and each and every one of those conversations somewhere, and that was a big thing for me, and for us to learn that He's only in certain people and certain, not just Christians, but certain Christians, right? God is in everything and everyone, and so many of those podcasts are beautiful and mean a lot to me, and I've had these epiphanies where like I'm talking to somebody who even I kind of rule out in my religious upbringing, like, yeah, you're a psychic, you don't know God or whatever the case is, because you wouldn't be a psychic. And I would be talking to them, and they like love Jesus more than they're devout Catholics, and that's the only thing they know. They haven't had this encounter, and they don't have to, right? You know what I'm saying? God meets them where they are, but talking to them and blowing my mind because I'm like, and it's not even just a psychic. I mean, it's people who aren't devout, like Catholics or Christians, people who are like in like Indian Hindu stuff, and they don't know
Yeah, it reminds me. So there's back when I was kind of still figuring out stuff. I was getting into like Buddhism and Taoism or
Uh,
Taoism, right? And there's a quote, "Fingers pointing to the moon," right? Where it's you could either look at the finger or you can look at the moon. You can't look at both. So a lot of the times people are trying to point to something, but they get caught up in the words, as you said, right? It's like instead of focusing on what you're getting at, people get caught up in the labels and the names, and it's like, yo, like think bigger than that. It's actually like what I'm trying to point to. So I think like a lot of people caught up in religion, that's a big, it's like a psyop. It's like a big thing that they just can't get past. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
for sure, man. It's been fun to because I know that and I used to be part of that. I can toy with it. And I still have my religious quirks and stuff and scary things, you know what I'm saying? So I have boundaries and stuff, but um, it's cool to know it and to use vernacular and words or even appearance, tattoos
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
whatever, sacred geometry and stuff that shocks people. And like out the woodwork, like this guy is into whatever. And they put you in a box in their mind. And I love that when people stay a little bit longer and listen, but then they're like, man, he looks, like a new ager. He looks whatever box somebody puts you in. I get that a lot from the religious people because the new age term for them is a derogatory term that they call people who are different. And it's cool when they come around and say, man, it caught me off guard a little bit at first, but then like I heard you speak and I knew you had to be one of us kind of thing. And that's always fun. It doesn't always happen, but when it happens, it's fun to see people like stay longer. You know, the it's twofold because it is my audience. My audience is the religious person who are either having spiritual experiences in church that they can't talk to their pastor about and can't talk to the people because they'll laugh at them, literally laugh at them, um, kick them out the church, pray for them, tell people they're demon possessed. So they got to keep it to themselves. They Google it, they go to Spotify, and they find me. Then they found me years ago. They found a lot more people now. There's a lot of people owning their story. And so there's the Christian who is broadening their horizon, but my goal for them is not to leave their faith, as they're looking and searching for truth. It's probably going to lead you out of the four walls of the church. There's so many people deconstructing, right? Um, but also, do it again next time, brother. Thank you. And just like hurry up and end it abruptly, and then still recording, and it wasn't professional, but I was like, man, that was kind of rough. I mean, we talked about it after, you know, and the hard conversations. It's life. It's real. I felt it. Other people feel it. Pill addictions and all kinds of stuff. Just listening to a podcast about aliens. Have no idea that I strategically, or God strategically, put this life. I love, how He's worked everything around to come back to um, honor Him and benefit me in the process. And people learn how to do podcasts and want to learn how to do it, and it's just been amazing, man. This life and this journey.
Yeah, God uses
Mm.
the something to shame the proud, or it's something along the lines of like, never judge a book by its cover.
Yeah,
I can't
yeah,
get the words on me right.
yeah. The foolish, the